Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we take your source material and, well, we really dig in to find the most important insights.
That's the plan.
Today we're looking at excerpts from Finding Your Element. And this is really for anyone out there who feels maybe a bit lost, like you haven't quite found your talents or passions. Maybe you're just looking for a new direction.
Yeah, exactly. The listener who sent these in, they really voice that feeling, that sense of maybe having untapped potential or just not being sure what their real strengths or interests are.
Right.
So whether you're maybe facing decisions about college or thinking about a job change, or maybe later in life just wondering what's next. Our goal today is to unpack these sources, find some practical advice, maybe some surprising facts.
Those aha moments.
Those aha moments to help you, the listener, find your element.
Think of this deep dive as a bit of a guide then. We're using the book's ideas, its stories, to help you navigate that journey of self-discovery. We'll look at what the book thinks is important, some challenges, and importantly, how to put these ideas into practice.
Sounds good.
Okay, let's dive in. So the book kicks off talking about this feeling many people have, like there's a great deal of unused capacity inside them. That seems to lead straight into making a distinction, right, between just being sort of naturally good at something and developing it properly.
Yes, that's a really key distinction the source makes. It talks about aptitudes versus abilities.
Okay.
Aptitudes are like your natural leanings, things you're just inherently good at or find easier, almost like your wiring. Raw talent, you could say.
Yeah.
Like being good at puzzles is the example given.
Uh-huh.
Abilities, though, they're different. They're what you build on top of those aptitudes through learning, practice, effort. That's how you become, say, a cryptographer or a master carpenter.
Right. So one is potential, the other is developed skill.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And the book says everyone has this unique profile of aptitudes, like as distinct as fingerprints or DNA.
So exploring those natural aptitudes is kind of step one, even if you don't necessarily like doing it at first.
That's what the source suggests, yeah. Explore the raw material first.
And the book doesn't just leave you there. It gives some actual tools, some exercises for you to start figuring this out.
It does, yeah. Very practical. Exercise 2, what are you doing? Basically asks you to just list everything you do in a typical week.
Everything.
Meetings, emails, hobbies, commuting, chores, the lot. Then you group them into categories, work, recreation, whatever makes sense. And then, this is the interesting part, you use colors.
Colors. How?
To show how you feel about each activity. Like maybe green for things you enjoy, yellow for things you don't mind, red for things you actively dislike.
Ah, okay.
And then visualizing that maybe as a pie chart. It shows you exactly how you're spending your time and energy.
Wow, yeah. Seeing how much of your pie is maybe red or yellow, that sounds like it could be a real wake-up call.
It really can be. It gives you a snapshot of where you are now. And then exercise 4, what are you good at? Builds right on that.
How so?
You take those same categories from the first exercise, but this time you mind map the aptitudes each activity uses. What skills or natural talents are you drawing on? And again, use colors.
To show what you're good at.
Exactly. What you feel you're naturally good at, what you're just okay at, and what you really struggle with.
Okay, so first, map your time and feelings, then map the underlying aptitudes. That sounds like a really solid, practical way for you to start taking inventory.
Yeah, taking stock of your energy and your natural strengths.
So moving from what you're good at to what you actually love. The book talks about passion as more than just liking something, right? It calls it positive spiritual energy.
That's a really interesting concept. It makes a distinction between physical energy, just your body being tired or not, and spiritual energy.
Spiritual energy.
Yeah, meaning your motivation, your mood, your outlook, your sense of purpose. Activities you're truly passionate about, they feed that spiritual energy. They give you a lift, even if they make you physically tired.
Right, like running a marathon, physically exhausting, but maybe spiritually energizing for the runner.
Exactly. And activities you dislike or that feel meaningless, they just drain that spiritual energy.
The book uses the example of the author feeling almost allergic to shopping, while other people love it.
Precisely. It's highly personal.
Yeah.
So identifying your passion involves asking things like, what gives you consistent joy?
Yeah.
What makes time just disappear? That feeling of flow.
Being totally absorbed.
Yeah. Or have you had one of those sudden epiphanies like, this is what I need to do?
Yeah.
Or maybe it's something you've loved since you were a kid but never really focused on.
Like the story of Randy Parsons, the guitar player.
That's a great example. Loved playing guitar, but then had this realization in the shower, I think it was, that his real passion wasn't just playing. It was the actual physical artistry of building the guitars.
Wow. So passion is really about what feeds your spirit, what gives you that deeper energy.
And the book argues that finding that element, that passion, it becomes even more powerful when it connects to something bigger, a sense of purpose.
Purpose as the source of lasting happiness.
That's the idea. It suggests purpose is the wellspring of sustained happiness and fulfillment.
The source mentions Martin Seligman's work here, doesn't it? About the components of happiness.
It does. Positive emotion, engagement or flow, and meaning. And meaning, Seligman argues, and the book agrees, comes from serving something larger than yourself.
Right. And the book gives some powerful examples of that.
Really powerful. Yasmin, creating Educate Me for Underprivileged Kids.
Yeah.
Dean Sycon, starting Coffee Kids to help coffee farmers directly. Craig Kielberger, moved by reading about Iqbal Masih, starting a movement against child labor.
These people found deep meaning by tackling something they cared intensely about.
Exactly. It wasn't just about personal success, it was about purpose.
But, okay, finding your element, finding that purpose, it's not always easy. The book talks about obstacles, right?
Yeah.
Things that get in the way.
Definitely. Both internal and external obstacles.
What kind of internal things?
Well, there's the sheer noise of modern life,
Mm.
especially digital distractions pulling our attention constantly outwards.
Uh-huh. Hard to hear yourself think sometimes.
For sure. And then there's the influence of what other people expect,
Yeah.
how we want to be seen, and importantly, our own self-doubt, that inner critic.
The book mentions something called the Forer effect.
Yeah, it's that weird tendency we have to believe really generic statements are somehow uniquely insightful about us, like horoscopes sometimes.
Right. You have a great need for other people to like and admire you. Who doesn't?
Exactly, and our inner critic can really latch onto that kind of stuff, reinforcing doubts. The book notes we can be really critical of ourselves.
So, quieting that noise, internal and external, is important. The book mentions meditation.
It does, as one tool to connect inward, though it acknowledges it can be difficult.
And external obstacles.
Things like cultural constraints, maybe subtle messages about what's appropriate for your age or gender or background, like Matthew Lee, the magician, initially hiding his passion.
Because magic wasn't seen as a serious path.
Right. And there's the author's own story about overcoming a massive fear of public speaking, learning you have to kind of move towards your fears sometimes.
That's a big one. Now, shifting gears a bit, another major external obstacle the book discusses is, maybe surprisingly, education itself. The perils of education.
Yeah, this is a really significant point. The argument is that conventional education often has a pretty narrow view of what counts as ability.
Like mostly focused on verbal and math skills.
Often, yeah. And critically, it tends to rely heavily on just a couple of teaching methods, mainly listening and reading writing, which means it might not connect with everyone's learning style.
So you might think you're just bad at, say, chemistry. But maybe it's not a lack of aptitude, it's just that the way it was taught in that big lecture hall didn't click for you. Like the story of the student who struggled until Mrs. Miller helped her one-on-one, maybe more visually.
Exactly that. The book brings up the VARK model, visual, oral, read-write, kinesthetic, as one way to think about different learning preferences. The point is, you might have wrongly decided you're bad at something just because you met it in the wrong way for you.
That really ties into attitude and mindset, doesn't it? The whole fixed versus growth mindset idea from Carol Dweck.
Absolutely. A fixed mindset says, I'm just not a math person. A growth mindset says, math is hard for me, but I can get better with effort and the right approach.
And the book stresses that while biology plays a role in our temperament, experience shapes it, and attitude is key. Like Jeff Lynch, who just didn't see barriers others did.
Your attitude makes a huge difference.
Okay, so we've got aptitudes, passions, obstacles, mindset. What about just plain circumstances, like where you grow up or how much money you have?
Well, this is where the book offers a really surprising insight, backed by research it cites.
Oh.
Apparently, external circumstances, things like wealth, status, where you live, they only account for about 10% of your overall happiness level.
Only 10%. That seems low.
It does, right. But what contributes much more, around 40%, is your intentional activity, what you choose to do, your behavior.
Wow. So you have way more control over your happiness than you might think, regardless of circumstances.
That's the implication, and the book is full of stories showing circumstances don't dictate your path. The author's own journey, from Liverpool, dealing with polio,
Mm.
Didn't exactly scream future international speaker.
Right.
Or the Laban family loving San Francisco but moving to Utah because it fit their values better. It shows you might not be as stuck by your circumstances as you feel.
And the book points out that careers are often not linear at all, right?
Not at all. So many examples. David Ogilvy, the father of advertising, was a chef and a stove salesman first.
No kidding.
Martha Stewart was a model. Vivek Wadhwa surveyed tech CEOs and found most didn't have engineering degrees. Business, arts, humanities were common. Less than a third of grads, according to Catherine Brooks, end up in careers directly related to their major.
That really makes you think, especially if you're stressing about picking the right major or the perfect first job.
Definitely. The book even suggests that maybe taking time off before or during college can be really valuable. Get some real-world experience, some perspective.
Because opportunities often pop up when you start moving towards things that genuinely interest you, even if the path isn't clear.
Exactly. It mentions Joseph Campbell's idea, follow your bliss, and doors will open where you didn't even know doors existed. Opportunities you couldn't have planned for.
Okay, so moving towards your interests helps opportunities arise. What else is really vital on this journey? The book puts a lot of emphasis on finding your tribe, doesn't it?
Oh, huge emphasis. This is crucial. Connecting with people who share your element, who get what you're passionate about. It provides affirmation, guidance, collaboration, inspiration. It's incredibly important.
And these tribes can be real-world groups or online communities.
Both. The internet is highlighted as like an unprecedented way to find your people, especially if your passion is niche or your potential tribe members are scattered geographically.
Though it adds a little caution about online stuff, too.
Naturally, yeah. But think about the examples. The maker movement, people sharing designs and helping each other. Magicians like Matthew Lee getting support from others in the field.
Even competitors helping each other,
Yeah.
like the special education attorneys.
Right. Or Chris Bird finding this amazing mompreneur tribe on Facebook, giving tech support, emotional support, even job leads. Ethan Cross, the thriller writer, finding validation and crucial feedback at a writer's conference.
So these tribes help you learn the ropes, the unwritten rules.
Exactly. They share knowledge, they support you when things get tough, they celebrate with you.
And how do you find them? The book suggests things like courses, workshops.
Yeah, joining classes, going to events, volunteering in an area related to your interest. These are practical ways to meet potential tribe members. And finding that tribe, it's not just about external support. It can actually help you figure out who you are, provide a sense of identity, like it did for Keith Robinson with the art community after he was bullied.
Finding your tribe helps you find yourself. That's powerful.
It really is.
So the final big idea the sources emphasize seems to be about the nature of life itself, that it's organic, not linear.
Right. You can't necessarily plan the whole journey start to finish. Life happens, things change. But you do need to plan the next steps.
It's a reminder that your life is unique, isn't it? And that you're constantly creating it or recreating it using your imagination, your sense of what's possible.
Absolutely. And crucially, you're not limited to just one element for your whole life.
So your passions can change, or you can have more than one.
Definitely. They can shift, evolve. Maybe you have several passions concurrently. The question isn't just what's next, but maybe what else?
Like Jeff Myers, the pathologist, going back to his guitar after almost 40 years.
Yeah, or Randall Charlton, who retired, but then felt this need for purpose and ended up running a business incubator in Detroit. Your element can be multifaceted, and it can change.
The book even suggests an exercise for this, right?
Mhm.
Writing about yourself in the third person.
Yeah, like someone else describing you, your interests, skills, hopes, achievements. It gives you a fresh perspective. Then you can mind map potential next steps from that description.
That sounds like a useful trick to get some distance. And it also mentions planning for predictable challenge.
Right. Like how will you deal with people who don't get it? Or potential financial hurdles, thinking ahead a bit.
Okay. And finally, the sources bring in something quite sobering insights from Bronnie Ware, the palliative care nurse, about regrets of the dying.
Yeah, this is really powerful stuff. She wrote about the most common regrets she heard.
And what was the #1 most common regret?
I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me.
Wow. Not about specific failures, but about not being true to themselves.
Often, yeah. Realizing they hadn't fulfilled dreams because they'd made choices based on others' expectations or just hadn't made the choice to pursue them. Fear, maybe?
That really puts everything we've discussed into perspective.
It does, doesn't it?
So this deep dive into finding your element, we've covered a lot. Understanding aptitudes versus abilities, those practical exercises to figure things out for yourself.
Recognizing passion as that spiritual energy, connecting it to purpose.
Navigating those internal blocks like doubt and external ones like maybe education that didn't fit or cultural pressures.
The huge role of mindset, the surprising fact about circumstances versus your own actions.
Yeah, the incredible power of finding your tribe, your people.
And finally, embracing that life isn't a straight line, it's organic, it evolves.
It seems the core message from these sources is that self-discovery is personal, it's often messy, maybe non-linear,
Full of challenges for sure.
but also full of possibility. And real fulfillment comes when you connect with what genuinely energizes your spirit and maybe even contributes to something bigger.
And remembering that the biggest barriers are often the ones in our own heads. Moving towards what gives you energy, even in small ways, can open up things you just can't foresee.
And remember that stat, your actions matter much more for happiness than your circumstances. And think about that number one regret.
Living a life true to yourself.
Exactly. So, as you, the listener, reflect on all this, maybe here's a final thought to leave you with. What's just one small thing, one tiny next step you could take, maybe even today or this week? Something fueled by curiosity or that hint of positive energy, a step towards exploring an aptitude or pursuing a passion or reaching out to connect with a potential tribe.
Even if it feels unconventional or small.
Yeah. What's the smallest step you can take towards living a life that feels truly yours?